even looking at the girls in the Asha program and like, oh, those poor girls, like, I can't believe they've been through. And there is some of that. But then I'm like, but what's worse? Like, what if I had never gone through that? And then maybe I'm on the other side, like not even knowing the depth of love and value that's available because I haven't had the opportunity to let love meet me in that depth. And I wouldn't trade it. I mean, would you trade it for anything?
No, never. I think that rock bottoms will teach you things that mountaintops never will. I heard that quote a long time ago, and I will always stand by that. You learn so much in the valleys and in the depths, and when you hold that much, just sickness and just shame and all of that in your soul and in your heart, and then you firsthand experience God just morph that pain and turn it into power and purpose. Like, it just, there is no question how real he is. And you just want to tell the world.
Welcome to How We Change the World. I'm your host, Deborah Rowan, and I'm so glad you joined me today for this powerful conversation about transforming personal pain into a life of purpose. Now, my two guests today, Molly and Kayla, are spending time volunteering with the Asha program in Calcutta, India, visiting young girls and young women who live in abject poverty and who are being exploited in multiple ways, not the least of which is being sold into marriage at very young ages, most often to much older men, or being trafficked and sexually exploited. Now, Molly and Kayla, my guests, both are Americans who grew up in loving families, in nice homes, in good neighborhoods. But they too suffered their own harrowing experiences that are frankly shocking and disturbing. Yet Molly and Kayla found their way to wholeness and happiness, and they have given their lives over to helping others find that dignity, self-respect, and hope, even in the most dire situations. Honestly, their courage is jaw-dropping, and their impact on others is and will continue to be profound. Also joining us in this episode, by voice only from Nepal, is my dear friend Sarah Davison Tracy, who is the founder of Seeds of Exchange. Sarah's organization is raising funds to open a tailoring training center in Calcutta, where Molly and Kayla now are, giving young women there options for self-sufficiency, something they haven't had. So please, if you would press that subscribe button on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, and now enjoy this conversation with Molly, Kayla, and Sarah. Hello, welcome Molly, Kayla, and Sarah Davison Tracy, who we're not looking at, but coming to us by voice. So welcome all of you to How We Change the World.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
So we are doing something very different than our normal podcast. We are going live with people that are in two different locations. We have in front of us Molly and Kayla on the screen. They are in India right now. And what city are you in?
Calcutta.
You're right in Calcutta, yeah. And you're in a nice hotel. I know that isn't where you've been hanging out, so we'll hear more about that. But you're in a hotel, which is pretty good for the podcast and the internet, which we need. And Sarah, tell us where you're calling from.
Yeah, I am coming from Kathmandu, Nepal. Just arrived at 1 a.m. this morning and ecstatic to be a part of this conversation.
Well, I'm ecstatic as well because this is a very powerful and deep subject that we're going to be talking about. We see all these beautiful smiling faces. There's a lot of difficult subjects behind all of this, but one that these lovely angels are all working on to bring peace and help and safety and love and support to a lot of people in India, in Nepal, and possibly to themselves as well. So let's begin. I think I'm going to begin with Sarah, who we cannot see at the moment, Sarah Davison Tracy, who is in Nepal and who is the founder of Seeds of Exchange, which is an organization I'll have you introduce, briefly, Sarah, because that's sort of the genesis for all of this coming together. So can you talk for just a moment about what Seeds of Exchange is and what you're doing and how this sort of came together?
Yes, well, Seeds of Exchange, the genesis, as you say, Deb, of Seeds of Exchange is literally this. It's bringing people together to find ways to share stories, to share our unique and one-of-a-kind ways that I believe that each and every single human being on the planet has to be able to love, to care, to fight for human rights, to be a good neighbor, to just be love in very practical ways. And so for me, through Seeds of Exchange, we have a particular focus on our kind of the rubber band of local and global. So how to really care for our neighbors, literally in the cities that we live in, and then find ways to really care for people through, we have fundraising campaigns throughout the year. We have community gatherings. We have what is bringing us to this global spot, which we are right now, in India and Nepal, to really learn through the power of relationships, through the power of stories, what friends of ours are doing around the world to make a difference in their communities. And that is what brought Molly and Kayla to India and me to Nepal. And we're going to dig into that a little bit later. But the heart of it just is community and love.
And I can't believe the courage of both you two young women to just say yes and get on a plane and go to India, because there's a lot of people who, and Nepal eventually, where you'll be going in a few days, but that's a frightening and overwhelming experience, as you're probably finding out. So before we talk about, sort of your backstories and what brought you to this work, Molly and Kayla, can you just start by telling us, actually, Molly, I'm going to start with you just to talk about when your first experience when you landed, because you've landed in Calcutta, and what was that? What happened, and what did that feel like just getting off the plane? Because just that is an experience
totally.
in itself.
I think I like to call it kind of like sensory overload, like in every way possible. So if you're used to like living in the US when it's kind of like a slower pace and just, go with the flow, everything's kind of, even if we have chaos, it's still somewhat in order, but you land in Calcutta and you're like, every sense, like physically what you smell, hear, see, touch, sure, probably things like taste in your mouth even, that is just so foreign to what you're used to. So it feels like kind of this like overload sensory experience that is absolutely fantastic and super fun.
As overloading as that was and oversensory, maybe a little less for you than the lovely Kayla sitting right next to you.
It is all brand new to me. I have been to Mexico when I was, I think, like 12. But that's about it.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to talk to people at first, or you just kind of got acclimated? And then, like, when did you actually start doing, interacting with people on the ground?
We landed at like 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah. We didn't get back to our hotel until when?
It was 3 a.m. Yeah. And
3 in the morning,
it was a very quick turnaround time. It was get like a few hours of sleep, get breakfast, and then we're off to the races.
Oh my gosh, no acclimating at all. Just throw you in the deep end without any water wings. All right. So, but you're with a team of people, right? You came with the leaders of Momentum Global, It's John. Was John the one
yes,
you
John
traveled with?
is the founder of Momentum Global.
Yeah, and so they brought you there to work with this program called Asha, which the translation is hope, correct? And what whether it's one of you two or Sarah, whoever would like to talk about just a little bit more about the work of Asha, or, you've seen it on the ground. So if one of you want to, talk about what you've learned so far about what Asha actually is, like what the actual work they're doing is. Do you want to take a stab at it, one of you?
Yeah, I think there's man, it's so different. Like, you can go onto the website and read about the Asha program, right? And there is something that is so different.
Right.
Reading about what is happening and feeling that like ping of inspiration of like, yes, I want to see and be a part. And then you get here and that's magnified to about the billionth degree because it's actually starting to give like names and stories and faces to what they do. And so I will butcher it probably in a million different ways, but I'll try my best. So Kayla and Sarah chime in at any time. But really, like, what I'm getting is they're all about empowering women and empowering these young girls who are kind of thrown into society as the outcasts and the lowest of lows, that you have an entire kind of culture and society that wants to keep them just low and kind of see them as second-class citizens, but really wraps around the whole woman, or really girl, the whole young girl, to see them empowered and to break kind of this generational poverty and this generational mindset of like, you can't do anything in life, or you have to be this and you can only be this. You can only go to work. You can only get married young. And your job is to provide in those ways, and kind of challenges that mindset of actually you're a human being created with value and worth and dignity, with dreams and hopes for your future. What would it look like to instill that empowerment inside of you by wrapping around the whole person, whether that's education or healthcare or vocational training or counseling and mentorship? And let's just see what happens.
I mean, that's a beautiful description. I'm not sure anyone could top that description of it, because it's so real and so human the way you described it. I know that these are girls 13 to 21 years of age that they help. So, you met them, right? So Kayla, you said day one, you're in the car, you're out. Where did you go day one, and who did you meet and what happened? Say on the first day. I can't believe this happened a few hours after you landed.
Right.
Like, okay, go to work.
Well,
but
the
anyway,
first time that we met the Asha girls was in the Momentum Global school in the slums. And we just had a few hours to really just meet them and kind of gain their trust and sing some songs and pray with them. And then the next encounter with the girls, we were in groups and we were, asking questions. We were diving deeper into their stories, and they wanted our advice, and we were praying over them. And so that was the moments when we really got to kind of see the reality of what they're going through. And I think what stood out to me the most is that some of these young girls, when you tell them like there is hope and you are worthy and you are valued, they don't even know what those words mean. They are seen as a burden. Their parents want to try as quick and as soon as possible they want to pay guys to go send them off to get married as a child, to get rid of them so they don't have to pay for their food and for their life. So I think that's why what Rita is doing with the Asha girls is so important.
Yeah, and I want to hear about Rita and your experience of her and her role. Of course, I don't know her, but I know she leads the program there. what I want to ask you first, and you can either, and both of you can answer this, respond to it, is, the reason and this is all me looking from, Colorado. So everything I say could be completely off base, but I mean, the reason why these situations have arisen, I would suspect, is because of the vast amount of poverty that the parents also live in. So for them to have children that they can't really feed and can't really clothe and support, that's why they want them to go be married off, or even, less attractive things than that. So when you're bringing this, maybe Western, I don't know if is Rita Western, or is she from India, or is she from somewhere else? Is she?
I believe it's Western India. Yes.
Oh, so she's Indian. Okay. I wasn't even sure of that. Okay. So she's part of the culture, which is great. Because, you would think, well, like, okay, we have this American vision that you should be empowered and you should be strong and you should have your own life. But then the parents are saying, yes, but our culture is they should go get married. So I'm just wondering how that's received, to have Westerners come in and say, you have value, you have treasure, just who you are, and you can be more. Like, is there any resistance to that because you're coming from another society?
That's a great question. I think as humans, just in general, and I could be wrong, but there's kind of this inherent longing to have value and worth and to be known and to freely give love and receive love. And, it gets tainted in whatever form that is. I mean, even in the West, we have our own forms of that tainted worth and value, which I know we've experienced. And I know, like, no one gets out of this without that. So, like, Deb, I know there's probably been times in your life where you felt that, or Sarah, that you felt that. And even though that was kind of culturally okay, like, even in a Western world, like, we still have that deep desire and longing. And so whenever, even working with these girls, what I was perceiving was they were actually really excited to hear that something could be different, and because there's something about freely giving love just because you are seeing the person in front of you and saying you are worthy of kindness and gentleness and love and value, that pings a human heart in ways that is universal, no matter kind of what the culture is. And I think they were
Absolutely.
receptive, but even culturally, there is that kind of stigma, and you are up against a mindset, but I don't think it's necessarily that they're rejecting it as much as they just haven't experienced it. And so having a local, like, Rita, the most incredible person, like, that I've met, like, having a local woman who knows the culture and and she grabbed a hold of that and is now, she's the one that's multiplying. She's the one boots on the ground doing it for her own people group.
Totally.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, your boots are on the ground too. And I think what value you bring all kinds of value. I can tell. You don't have to say another word, and I can just see what you're both bringing to the table there. Because you're so clear on your mission, and you're so clear about not just the work you're supposed to be doing, but the truth of it, right? The absolute. You feel it, you've lived it, you know it, and now you're using your own experiences to enrich their lives. And of course, they must sense. And my next question is, have you shared your own stories with them? And I would, are you telling them what your lives have been like as well?
We have.
So that
I think there was so much power in us sharing our own testimonies with them. And that kind of opened a door for them to really relate, because we've been through a lot of the same things that they have. So that really just opened this door to these young women for them to be like, okay, like, yes, these are girls from America, but they can relate to us, and they have been through similar things, and like, look what God has done in their lives. So maybe he can do the same for me.
So let's dive down into that a little bit. I personally don't know your own stories, but I know that you've both been through some very trying and traumatic and harrowing experiences, and that's really what maybe brought you to the table. So I don't know, Kayla, since you were just talking about that's what helped you relate to these, help them relate to you, and you relate to these young women. What's been your experience? What was your life experience that you're referring to?
The short version would be, from a very young age, I struggled with attachment issues, with very strong anxiety issues, very bad body image, self-conscious body dysmorphia issues since age 5. That turned into an eating disorder and self-harm at age 14 when my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer for the second time. And that turned into picking up my first drink at 17. And that led me into a decade-long spiral and cycle throughout addiction. And so in 2020, I was homeless and I was hopeless, and I had collapsed my lung, and I ended up in the hospital, and I basically had the choice to choose life or continue knocking on death's door until it was my time, which probably wasn't going to be very much longer. And so I chose life, and by the grace of God, I got scholarshiped into a 3-month treatment center. And so for the first time, I actually wanted the help, and I took full advantage of it. And after that, I did 8 months in sober living, and ever since have just been really diving into my relationship with God and trying to help other people that are struggling and give back the gift that was so freely given to me.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I wasn't aware of any of that. What do you know what it was that pulled you from one side to the other side? You know, that pulled you from this, you said you had a collapsed lung, you were in the hospital, you were substance abusing many substances. I don't know. It doesn't even matter. But who spoke to you? What happened to change? Because that's a big struggle to make those changes. Wasn't a little thing.
I had been to like 7 inpatient treatment centers. And so I think what really changed in that moment when I knew that like my life was very close to being over from this addiction was, number one, I had a mustard seed size of faith. I had a very little inkling of faith in that moment that, you know that God is real, and I know that he is good, and I know that I have seen miracles. I've seen him heal my mother. I just didn't believe that he could do it for me. But I sure wanted to try.
And is your mother healthy now?
One of the strongest people
really?
I know.
Well, it's certainly reflected in you as well, you know, even if it was on hiatus for a while. I don't know. Do you ever think that experience, those experiences were necessary for you to evolve into the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, I think sometimes God calls us to the battle in order to walk other people through it. So
you're both so eloquent. I could listen to you both just talk forever. It's surprising actually to find such depth and such eloquence and such truth coming out of such young people, you know, because your experiences were early in life too. You said you started at 5, you know, so you have been on this battle and this journey for really, really a long time. Thank you so much and for sharing that. Molly, can you talk about your life story and maybe what brought you into this place that you're now serving others so fully?
I just grew up, especially look at it from like in context of where we're sitting at right now with the Asha girls. And I think it's crazy how we can find like a million things that like separate us. But yeah, I grew up in, suburbia neighborhood with some really awesome parents and family, but I just had no idea, about that same feelings of love and value and worth and any of those things. Like it wasn't grounded in anything. Hmm. And anytime we're, our own reference point for something, like if I'm going to get my own value from me or my own worth from me, like it's just going to end poorly. And, you take a 16-year-old who has pretty high energy and, is bored and has no clue as to like who they are or what their purpose is or their value. Like you kind of have a recipe for disaster and just something to brewing. So I was in, from throughout high school, 16 till I graduated, in like sexual exploitation and in the drug scene and sold cocaine and, eventually got out of that. And then from 18 to about 25, just went full out like party girl, party life. And there was just, a lot of drugs, sex, drugs, rock and roll, right? And at some point in that time, I did too many drugs and went into like drug-induced psychosis, which is wild because some people never come out of that. And I was working for I had a government office job at the time. I was,
I did not expect you to say that. And I think it's an important point though, because you're working, like, you look normal to the rest of the world. You're at a government job.
Had a degree in water resources and soil science, like working for the state.
So you made it through college doing all this.
I wasn't ever sober. I mean, I was just in party mode, and not like a normal like party mode, like constantly in like hard drugs. And so it was just a mess. And then I end up in drug-induced psychosis, end up losing my job, had to be medically detoxed off of drugs and alcohol, and did a stint in the psych unit because I was having auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations, and extreme paranoia. I mean, we're talking full-on psychosis. And 12 days inpatient, and then in a partial hospitalization program. So therapy for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. And basically, the doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists there were essentially like, hey, like you're going to need a lot of help, like probably for the rest of your life, because you had too much trauma. You've done too many drugs, like put me on 1,200 milligrams of antipsychotics a day. And I went to live with my parents so that they could like help me and so that I could function. But, they said I wouldn't be able to manage my own finances because I was impulsive and wouldn't be able to hold down a job for too long by myself. I needed to go work for my dad at his, pizza shop at the time so that he could kind of be there. Just a lot. I needed a lot of support. And at some point, I wouldn't even like to say that I got myself out of it because I didn't. I was at this point in my life, total atheist, right? Like just all the way. Couldn't believe, which actually takes more faith to not believe, turns out. But I...
Oh, that's such a huge point I've never heard, but continue. I want to revisit that one.
I'm standing in my parents' backyard in December of 2017, and I'm smoking a cigarette. And I said, God, I'll give you 1 year. I will say yes to every invitation that I believe is from you for 1 year. And if at the end of that year turns out you're not real because you're just this God that Christians made up to make themselves feel better about their crappy lives, like if you're real great, but if you're not, I'll kill myself at the end of next year. And I made myself a bag of narcotics, like a kill bag. I wrote on it in case of emergency, and I stashed it. And I did what I said I'd do. And I just started saying yes, which is wild. Like, I didn't know the Bible. I didn't know the Holy Spirit. I didn't know Jesus. I didn't know these things. And so it was kind of fun because I actually got to know Jesus, like, on his terms. Like, I didn't have any kind of preconceived notions about really what he did or who he was, like, all the way. And so it was fun because it just, moment after moment and yes after yes, he ends up just revealing himself in these crazy ways that you just can't make up. But long story short, we're sitting here today, however many years later, because he did it. And I mean, psychotic, full, like, hallucinations, paranoia, flashbacks, and sitting here not on 1200 not on any antipsychotics at all, like, and just walking out life. And that's where my heart is that people would experience that they wouldn't know him. They wouldn't know the Bible or know Jesus in their head or in their thing, but, like, actually, like, just what if the creator of the universe really does have something that he wants to reveal to you about himself, about yourself, and about the world around you that will make you more passionate and more fulfilled than you ever could have even imagined. And how can we not go after you've experienced? I mean, look at Kayla. Like, after she's experienced it, how could she not? How could I not? How could, like, you can't hold that in.
What a story. What a story. I've never heard a story like that of laying down the gauntlet and saying, I'll say yes to everything. And then if it doesn't work, I mean, it's a threat. You're threatening God.
Turns out he's not afraid of that.
And, yeah, I was kind of sitting like, oh my God, you did that. Really both extraordinarily powerful stories. I have had chills when both of you were speaking, and it tells me everything about why you are there. And I have different emotions. I'm so sad for both of you that at such young ages you experience such trauma, and yet the fact that you are still so young, and you have all the rest of your life now to do what you're currently doing with it. That's the beauty of having gone through that so young. So now I want to take those stories and go back to the Asha girls. You shared these stories with them already. I bet I'm going to interject on them that there was some shock on their part to think that girls in America who grew up in, I think you grew up in Highlands Ranch, Kayla, which is a lovely, nice suburb of Denver.
Yeah, in Parker.
Up in Parker. Okay, so, sort of where the idyllic life might be, sort of in the country, sort of about beautiful homes, beautiful, no, very little apparent crime and danger, and everything's safe, and yet this is happening there. And Molly, you grew up in Oklahoma, I believe. Yeah. But also, you said you love your parents, so you probably grew up in a good home.
Both good homes. My parents are incredible.
Amazing parents.
Yeah. I mean, so this is disheartening as a parent and a grandmother to know that no matter. I mean, so first of all, was this very confusing to the young women in India to hear this? Or not? Were they surprised? Because I'm surprised, and I live here.
Like, the way that their eyes would get big, that they, like, when, like, I have an experience of being raped, and that happens a lot over here, and I have suicide attempts in my story, and that's a very real thing for each and every one of these women. I heard that a ton. The trauma, the shame, the self-sabotage, all of that. I think it was more a sigh of relief, then a little bit of shock, but then after that, just like a sigh of relief.
That we're all the same. Yeah, it may look different. It may look like you live in this beautiful area with all the food that you want, but your body doesn't even want to eat it. And, things are not ever as they appear. All right. Molly, did you have the same experience with the Asha girls, as we're calling them? But the girls who are in the Asha program?
Man, anytime, anywhere that you can sit with someone and hear them or be heard by them, there's just kind of this instant, like, beautiful connection that just kind of says, like, we're both human and we're sitting with you. And so instead of it being a stage, it was a table. Because when you can, like, share, like, here's what we've been through, we're not trying to teach you if anything, we have everything to learn. Like, we're not trying to teach you something. We're not trying to change you.
We're not above you.
We're not above it. Like, this isn't a stage. Like, this is a table. And can I let you know me, and I will grow from that, and you'll grow from that. And then will you let me know you, and I'll grow from that, and you'll grow from that. And so if anything, it was more of like that. And so I wouldn't say necessarily like how you said, like, not really like shock, but just like relief. Like, we're not coming to try to, change all their circumstances and do, like, that's not the point. Like, let's let love lead and let love do what love does.
You're so wise beyond your years. You're wise beyond people who live to be 100. And I know it's due to your pain and that you've got, you're smiling, you're beautiful, you're healthy, you're serving others, you're serving God. But the pain that you had to go through to get that. And I'm wondering is there a part of you that wishes that you didn't have to, maybe all of you wishes that you didn't have to go through that? No, both of you are thankful. Yeah. You're both nodding no, which is what I'm responding to, because some people are just listening. There's no part of either of you that says, I wish that never happened and I could have had the life of, this person over here who
Deb,
looks like they had a better life.
Because if I hadn't, I would not know God like this. And my highest, people in Christ, like our highest and truest calling, even as humans, before we even know it, is to intimately know our Creator, who intimately knows us and formed us before we were even a thought in our parents' head. And, there's sometimes like people will ask, and I know you probably have experienced this too, and it's like, you have some people that are like, oh man, those poor girls, like even looking at the girls in the Asha program and like, oh, those poor girls, like I can't believe they've been through. And there is some of that, but then I'm like, but what's worse? Like, what if I had never gone through that? And then maybe I'm on the other side, like not even knowing the depth of love and value that's available because I haven't had the opportunity to let love meet me in that depth. And I wouldn't trade it. Would you trade it for anything?
No, never. I think that rock bottoms will teach you things that mountaintops never will. I heard that quote a long time ago, and I will always stand by that. You learn so much in the valleys and in the depths, and when you hold that much just sickness and just shame and all of that in your soul and in your heart, and then you firsthand experience God just morph that pain and turn it into power and purpose. Like, it just, like, there is no question how real he is, and you just want to tell the world. So no, I wouldn't change it.
And you are telling the world.
I might change, like, the experience that my parents had to go through, but it also, like, my dad did not grow up he grew up not knowing God at all. It was not spoken about in his family. And through my addiction, he has found the most intimate, beautiful relationship with the Lord. It has been, I mean, I don't have words for how beautiful it has been to witness both of my parents and their relationships grow so close with Jesus throughout all of this.
Now, you're speaking, you both are, you're talking about God, you're talking about Jesus, and that's the terminology and the reference point in the way that you are relating. I'm wondering, the young women that you are with are probably not Christian. Are they Hindu or Buddhist, or are they? Yeah. So they, that's the lens, and that's the knowledge that they have. Is that a problem for you speaking with them? Is there a separation between this is my God and this is your God?
I think something that we found being here is that people just have a heart to worship. Like, they just want to worship something bigger than themselves. So Asha welcomes, there are Christians, and there are Hindus, and there are Muslims, and they're all welcomed, and they're all going to get that love.
Yeah. And I know, and same for you, none of us could lead ourselves to Christ. Like, that's not the, okay, hold on. I don't want to say that's not the goal or that's not the thing, but this isn't like, say the sinner's prayer and check off the box of like, now you know God. And, it's like, it's so much bigger than that. It is, whether you're Hindu or, there's some Muslim families that send their, daughters, and some are Christians, like Kayla was saying. But again, like, we believe, that it's love, that God is love, and that it's Jesus in particular. So ours is unto Jesus, but the best way that we could ever share the gospel or whatever is to do what he did, which is lay our lives down, lay our comforts down, lay our right to be right down in the same ways that he did. And can I actually just love the person right in front of me? And that's his job. It's the Holy Spirit's job to lead people unto himself. My job is to I get to witness it, and we get to witness it.
And even if they don't believe, there are seeds being planted.
And they have value because they're still made in his image, even if they don't know that. And we can hold that they're still carrying his image in the most beautiful ways, that he allows us to get to know.
Yeah. Let's talk about Asha a little more in terms of what that program actually is doing. And, I know that you're there, so you're sharing your stories with them, but you're with a group of others that are also, working at Asha. Like, what is the structure of the program, just without you two even being there? What's happening when you're not there? Who's working with them, and how is it? What are they getting? Because they're in school. So this is like a program that is on top of that. It's not replacing school or anything. It's just a supportive project,
so
right?
Rita meets with the women and the girls every Friday for a few hours. And so, it's weekly. And it's basically just all about the girls being seen, heard, counseled, and equipping them with the ability to break chains and to break the toxic, heartbreaking cycles that they've been in.
What are some of those cycles? What are they like actually tangibly facing?
So there's, with the way that it's set up, it's like, so these girls are in like the lowest of poverty situations. So they're in the slums. Their families are in full out survival mode. And a lot of times once you're born into that slum, like, it's generational. Like, your family for generations doesn't leave that slum, because your life looks like, how can we make enough money to be able to eat today and get our water? And
Right.
So that's what you're working with. And then you have a family who has a daughter or a girl that's just kind of seen as like a liability because they just take more effort and more, you know, they're not really the providers. Whereas a man can go out and work and, you know, and so what happens is, so you have like young, like child marriages, and parents will pay grown men to marry their daughter. It's like, we'll pay you for you to take them.
Like life savings, like all their money.
We heard like a literal direct story where a family had given their whole life savings so that someone would take their daughter. And then when that daughter was even put into a situation of extreme abuse, like, and went back to the parents and kind of told them, their parents are like, no, you stay. But of course they are, because they just put their whole life savings in it. So it's not even like it's bad. It's just generational. It's just a mindset.
Yeah.
They also, like, if these girls have brothers, the brothers they will get the education over the girls.
And so girls are just like the second class citizens. And it's neat though how many girls like are weekly in this. A lot of them have been there for 5 years, for the whole, since they
Really? So they've been in the Asha program, you mean, for 5 years? And how is it changing them? How is it helping them? Because I think also some of them have been trafficked for sexual exploitation as well, right? So is that still going on for some of them?
A lot.
As we speak.
But it's everywhere. So it was cool because we got to hear a story of a girl who she was about to be, you know, her parents had arranged this deal with a man, and she was able to actually like confide in the Asha program what was going on, because they don't talk to their parents about it. As soon as like she heard about this, and she'd been kind of going through the Asha program, and she was able to confide in one of the, you know, counselors, mentors there, and was like, hey, like, we'll stand with you. Like, if you don't want to do this, like, you don't have to, like, you get to choose, which is empowering. And now this girl is like going to nursing school and completely changing the dynamics and affecting her family generationally, both up and down. Like, that's a multi-generational effect just from this one person. Because if you can affect the woman or the girl, you know, they're the ones that are taking care of the children and the parents and the in-laws. Like, it's the woman. And so you get a mindset shift in this young girl who then has access and influence multi-generationally in all directions. You can really change things.
You know, and not only is it multi-generational, but I'm thinking of the other girls in Asha that are seeing her go from this exploited early marriage, forced marriage, where she's tortured by the man. You don't want to call him the husband. It doesn't seem like the right word, but she gets out of it and she goes to nursing school. So if you're a woman and you're being exploited in whatever way, and you see she can do it. I mean, that has to have huge ripple effects as well.
It definitely does. It builds a community. So, like, they're in a tight sisterhood.
I was going to say, they're all, I mean, when you see the slums, it's very, very packed. And so, I'm sure they're all passing each other, hanging out with each other.
Encouraging each other.
Yeah.
Like, they get to create their own kind of family unit, like, within just one another.
Rewrite the story.
Yeah. And it's hard.
Yeah. This is just a great... Yeah, of course, it doesn't make it easy, but then just to have any hope, which is the name of the program, Asha is Hope, right? So it's been, and it's a 5-year-old program. Is that when it started 5 years ago? 7 years. And the impact sounds like it has been remarkable. Hey, Sarah, are you still with us?
I am.
I know you just landed in Nepal a few hours ago, and I thought we might have lost you to some jet lag there, and you dozed off.
I am here. There's no way I was going to add anything to that incredible storyline. I was just tearing up and getting goosebumps just like you, Deb. That was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, can you see them? I've had them about 20 times since we started this phone call. But let me see. Can you jump in here and maybe talk about, because one of the reasons we wanted to focus on this right now, first of all, you're in India. I mean, I'm talking to Kayla and Molly are in India working with Asha right now. But Seeds of Exchange, as part of this, is focusing your fundraiser in September and October on raising funds for Asha. And I just wanted you to speak to that for a moment so we could let people know if they want to help support this rather amazing organization, how it works and so forth.
Well, so one of our favorite things in our global community of Seeds of Exchange is just to shine a spotlight and share stories, which is exactly what Kayla and Molly have done with us and for us today.
Because Kayla and Molly are currently in Calcutta working with Asha, experiencing it and sharing with us what they have learned, I thought it was a really good time for us to maybe address how people might be able to help Asha. And I know that your organization, Seeds of Exchange, which helped arrange all of this, is raising money for Asha during the months of September and October. And so hopefully we'll be able to hear you well enough to talk about how that works.
Yeah. So what we are doing in September and October is sharing the story of Asha. And inviting people. There's so many ways to impact change in the world. And one of the ways is giving what we have in terms of our resources. And that's why we do these fundraisers, to invite people wherever they are in the world to be able to be a part, literally infuse their love and their energy in this beautiful, impactful organization based in Calcutta, India. And so what we're doing with Asha, we asked the team there, okay, we have $5,000. That's our goal. And what's your dream? Like, what would be the best way to serve the young women in the Asha program? And immediately they said, we have been dreaming of putting together a tailoring vocational training center. And this literally came from the mouths of the women, the Asha women and girls, to say, for those of us that aren't going to school, vocational training is the best ticket for us to be able to make money and demonstrate to our parents that they don't need to sell us. They don't need to marry us off at a young age. We are actually going to be able to provide for ourselves and have a trade. And so they already have the sewing machines. They just need the space for the vocational training center. And so the funds are going to go to that. And it is just what Molly and Kayla said. It's the power of organizations that like this, that are boots on the ground, that are weekly connected with the community and able to say, if the lives of these young women in Asha, one by one, are empowered, are dignified, are loved, are connected, then that actually has the power to, yes, change their life, but then ripple out into the Asha community of hope, the families around them, the neighborhoods. And it's literally becoming this light of an organization in a very dark place. The slums are hard. People are barely surviving. They are, many of them are day laborers at best. And the Asha program is literally this beacon of light in the middle of this really place of a lot of suffering. And they are planting seeds of hope that are absolutely going to last for generations.
And you said it's a tailoring,
yes,
to learn tailoring skills. The school is so that these women
yes.
can support themselves. What is the goal? What is the amount of money that is required to open this tailoring school, or the space that they're looking for?
So if for our goal is $5,000, and we always have. I always ask our partners, okay, let's say there's someone out there that has, a chunk of money that they need to give away for tax purposes or whatever. What's the big dream? And so literally, if there's more money to be given, and they can open up an additional vocational training center. Literally, we anyone that is listening to this, and maybe they've listened after our fundraiser is over in October, this is like one of those evergreen invitations to reach out and find out what it is that is needed at that point, because Asha is going to continue way beyond our little tiny contribution to their epic vision. So the goal is for people just to pay attention to the thrumming of their heart and the inspiration of Molly and Kayla, and I consider them my heroes and my inspiration, because they have used just what they said, the pain in their life, to find purpose, to find a sense of profound faith that are reaching. It has been what has provided their own personal internal healing, but it is so far reaching beyond them, as we have witnessed. It's now empowering them to do things that are very daring and very terrifying and very uncomfortable, and go across the world. And they've both been sick on this trip, and you would never know it from their voices. They've rallied and dug deep, and we gave them an out even on this podcast. Are you guys up to sharing your story? And they're like, yes, we are not. Nothing is going to stop us. So this is real, raw, human courage that we get to witness right here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just telling your story takes a lot of courage, and that's just the first drop in this whole long evolution of your getting yourself healed and then sharing it, traveling to these, India and Nepal, really tough places to travel to. The story is beautiful no matter what angle you look at it from. Sarah, what we will do is, your organization is Seeds of Exchange, and your website is seedsofexchange.org. But I will have that as many places in the show notes and across the screen and everywhere that we can, just to encourage people to learn more about what Asha is, how Seeds of Exchange is supporting Asha and building this new center. And I just think anyone who has been listening to this story, well, I won't say everyone, but I can't imagine not wanting to know what's next, to follow along on and I'll put the links, of course, also for Momentum Global, because they have a number of programs like Asha. Asha is one of the programs within the umbrella of all amazing programs. So we'll definitely have their website up there as well for people to follow. I do thank you, Sarah. I'm just going to switch back to Kayla and Molly for a minute and just ask you both. I mean, you're on this trip. It's a mission. You're going to be working and learning more about more women that are in similar situations in Nepal. And then what is next for both of you? What is your work in the real world, shall we say, although what gets more real than what you're doing right now?
God has given me such a gift. I get to start a new job early September, and it is working for a nonprofit called Safe Places for Women in Inglewood, Colorado. And they have a home, and we are bringing women from all over the country into this home in Colorado that have been that are survivors of human trafficking. And so we are walking them through in phases, just walking them through everything, all the hard things. And so I am so excited to start that. I also co-lead a recovery group at my church at Flatirons on Wednesday nights and serve with them on Sundays as well.
Oh, very, very rich and very great use of your gifts and your learning and your awareness. Thank you for that. How about you, Molly?
Because everything can change so quickly. I mean, it was one phone call with Sarah for 10 minutes, and somehow, anytime Sarah says, I have a wild-haired idea, just brace yourself, because your life's about to change. Right.
Everyone should be warned. Sarah is a very powerful woman.
So I'm actually in the process of trying to, as of right now, pursuing graduate school. And so I'd really, I'm trying to get in. My background's in water resources and soil, And so over the summer, I took 12 hours in psych just to kind of, you know, you don't have to necessarily have a bachelor's in psychology to get in, or, you know, but I needed help, like, to know the material. But I'd like to pursue graduate school, specifically clinical psychology, at like the PhD level, and really to see how we can make, you know, lasting systemic change and kind of merging brain, Bible, like you need both, like both are like realities. Like if God made the brain, then he's also going to give us insights on what people need and how to treat. So that's where I'm at right now.
You know, I don't know. I feel like most people who go into master's programs and PhD programs, I'm not sure how many have had the real life experience first that led them into that. You know, a lot of times you haven't come to learn all these lessons before you study. So if you were to do that and be able to integrate your real life experience, I mean, I can't imagine the number of people you could help. And what you could even bring to your fellow students, because it's you both just have so much to share, and you're sharing it, and that's what is, you know, a lot of times we have things to share, but we keep them to ourselves. So thank you for being such beautiful role models for everybody at every stage of life. Your courage in traveling there, your courage in telling your story, your courage in owning your truth, and your vulnerability. It really, what calls to me is to be more vulnerable myself, to be more open myself. When you share that much truth and that much, you know, realization and pain and experience, it opens the other person, as you've seen in India, but not just there. It's everywhere you go in the world. You know, everyone who listens to this podcast will be opened up by your courage and your leadership, just by who you are, which Sarah does as well, as I tell her, just being in the presence of Sarah, who sounds like she's this heavenly voice out there.
She sure is.
It's a gift to the world. So I want to just, we're going to, to be continued. I want to continue this at some other date and see what's happened and where you're moving in life. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your heart and soul and experiences with us. And anybody wants to support them, we're going to have the fundraiser for through Seeds of Exchange and Asha, which you can see on the screen and you will see in the show notes. Please follow them and read about them. Thank you all so much. Sarah, go get some sleep. And you too, I'm glad to see that you're healthy and strong and have another wonderful experience in Nepal. And we'll follow up with you after that.
Thank you, Deb. Allowing us the opportunity to talk about this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been incredible. Thank you.
Oh, I can't even tell you all my joy and pleasure.
Bye.
Take care. Love to you all.
Bye.